Look at you, crawling, panting, trembling from a world that was never meant to be kind. You call it struggle. You call it growth. But all I see is a ritual of defeat. A performance of pain, you repeat, hoping one day it will reward you. You kneel, you cry, you wait, you beg, and in the end you call that as the process of life. But let me ask you, who told you that suffering was noble? Who taught you to wear failure like a crown? Who convinced you that brokenness was beauty? That fear was wisdom? That weakness was human? It was the broken who taught you to remain broken. It was the chained who told you to decorate your shackles. It was the blind who handed you the blindfold and said, "This is what seeing feels like." They say you should be realistic, but what they mean is stay small like us. They say don't get ahead of yourself, but what they mean is don't become what we never could. They fear the version of you that doesn't ask for permission. The weak have built a world where mediocrity is mercy, where the highest virtue is to endure, not to overcome, where the loudest voice is fear and courage is mocked as cruelty. They taught you to apologize for your power before you ever had it. They taught you to shrink before you ever stood. They taught you to hide before you ever became visible. And the worst part? You believed them.
As John 15:18 says, "If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you." What else do I need to say? I mean, nowadays you need to be very comfortable with being seen as the villain by society, right? Think about it for a second. Jesus was not crucified because he was seen as a superhero. He was seen as a villain. Despite everything, all of the goods that he did on his time on earth, he still was seen as a villain. You need to understand that you being seen as a villain does not mean that you are a bad person, okay? How someone else sees you does not define you. I used to be really in my head, when I wanted to film, in the gym or even outside. Outside, I still tend to struggle with that a little bit, simply because I didn't want to be in people's way. I didn't want to be seen as someone who was trying too hard, right? And it is when I started to understand that if I'm seen as a villain, that means that I'm on the right track. And whenever you see it that way, if you see criticism, if you see someone who talks bad about you behind your back, and it can be for anything, really, you are going to see that as normal, right? Because, for example, the Joker was not really concerned by the fact that every person with a brain hated him, because he was simply the Joker. He knew that despite him believing that he was doing the right thing, he knew that people didn't understand him. And don't make me say what I didn't say. Do not go around and just end people's lives because you feel like it, or, be doing something illegal, or, bringing other people down. That is not what kind of villain you have to be. You simply have to be the kind of villain that does not simply follow what he is being told. That's about it. Because you have to also understand that even if you don't do that, you are going to be seen as a villain, okay? I tend to never really go to class, right? And some people started hating the fact that I never go to class. Like, make that make sense. I am not interfering with anybody. I am less in people's way, and still that is a problem. People are going to hate you for anything, really anything. And if you do let that stop you from getting to where you need to be, you are going to live a life of misery and regret. You embracing the villain identity is not only going to free you in a way that you couldn't possibly imagine, but it's also going to show you that actually villains, most of the time, they do have a point. But if you try to please every single one around you, that means that you do not really have an identity to yourself. Because let's say that your favorite color is black, and just to please the person that is in front of you, you change your favorite color to yellow. That means that you don't have a favorite color. That means that you don't have a personality and you don't have an identity, simply because you don't want to hurt the other person's feeling. But the villain is simply going to say, my favorite color is black. And they're not going to care about what the other person's favorite color is. And it's not about colors. So you need to understand that you being seen as a villain is a really, really good sign. If you feel like everybody is just against you, and of course you're not doing anything bad, like being a nuisance around you, right? You need to understand that you're doing something right. And do not change because people make you feel like a weirdo. Because you're going to have to decide, if you don't want to be normal, which nowadays normal absolutely sucks, you're going to have to be seen as a weirdo. You have to accept that. There is no gray in here. You're either normal or a weirdo, which in this case is a villain.